I'm Daphne Clifton. Thanks so much for joining this webinar. To introduce myself briefly, I started my career with a short spell in the Navy and then spent over 20 years in media sales and marketing, managing teams and latterly as Senior Vice President of Sales. For the past 10 years, I've been running my own business, coaching and training managers to achieve theirs and their team's full potential. One of the key things people ask me to coach them around is networking effectively. You may find walking into a room full of strangers a nightmare. Or possibly you've been to lots of networking events with less results than you'd hoped for. Today, we'll be concentrating on face-to-face networking, as for many, that is the biggest challenge. The content is based on my book, Network with Confidence, and I'll be walking you through the process of networking and attending an event. Feel free to make notes, but you can email me at daphne@cliftonconsulting.com for a copy of the slides, or buy the book online at cliftonconsulting.com. So let's start by thinking about what networking is. Simply put, networking is work. It's about building your business contacts and finding new customers. It's also a two-way street and as much about listening as it is about speaking. For those of you who may be quieter, this will be good news. Listening is often a more effective networking tool than speaking. I remember going to an event. It was a regular meeting and I knew I'd see familiar faces. Before I even stepped over the threshold, some random person had thrust a leaflet about bed and breakfast into my hand. I have no idea who he was. I wasn't interested in bed and breakfast, and it actually annoyed me to be approached in that way. This was all speaking and no listening on his part. Finally, networking can be expensive, and we'll be looking at how you can stretch your budget. Now let's look at the 4 steps to making the most of your networking. Choose, prepare, attend, and follow up. We've established that networking is work. Now you need to choose the best events to attend. This is important for the following reasons. You could network from breakfast to dinner, all day, every day, pretty much 364 days of the year. That might be great fun, but not overly effective. You need to be networking where you will be able to meet companies you want to do business with. Of course, networking is also about 2nd, 3rd, and 4th generation relationships. But at least if you start in the right place, those extra connections are more likely to happen. Networking requires consistency. You can't expect to randomly turn up and the business roll in. Here's how to choose the best networking events for you. Start by thinking about the level of time and financial commitment required. If you aren't a morning person, why on earth would you join a weekly breakfast group? Probably a lunch or evening event would suit you better. Who else belongs or attends? This is about connecting with your target market. Find out what the group is like. If it's a one-off event, find out as much as you can about the organisers. The best events have a list of attendees, either on the day or before. And if it's a meet the buyer event, don't go unless the organiser gives you a list of the buyers. You have to be really organised to make the most of these events. Let's assume you've chosen and booked an event to go to. Next, you will need to prepare. Like it or not, first impressions count. People buy people, which means it's important to look and sound professional. Consider the dress code for the event. I remember working with a client who ran a chain of upmarket pubs. They insisted their staff use the same dress code as their city clientele. Before walking out of the door, do your mirror checks. It's equally important for males and females. You don't want to come home to discover your flies undone. And please, no sweaty handshakes. Make sure your personal hygiene is up to scratch. Along with your dress code, You need to have some business cards with the correct details on. There's nothing worse than excusing yourself for outdated or no business cards. If you really don't have any, be upbeat about it. Say something like, "Oh, my cards are arriving next week. Can I take one of your cards? I'd love to keep in contact with you." You look the part, you have up-to-date business cards. You now need to set some goals for the event. Why are you going? Which product are you promoting? Using networking as a one-hit wonder where you sell lots of widgets on the day isn't normally very productive. Which brings us to one of the most important things you can prepare: your pitch. Be clear and concise when speaking to other networkers is essential if you're trying to spread the word about you and your business. You need to be able to explain succinctly what it is you do or what you want to achieve. This is often known as an elevator pitch. Prepare to describe your business in the length of time it would take to travel a few floors in a lift with someone. Keep it as simple as possible. You may have 80 people to say it to. Write down what you're going to say. This should be no more than 5 sentences, or you're in danger of boring them to death. Make it relevant, and please, if you aren't a comedian, don't try to be funny. Practice it out loud for at least an hour. This may sound excessive, but trust me, it'll boost your confidence. So now you've chosen the right event, all your preparation is done, and today's the day. I like to arrive early, settle myself, network, and leave pretty near the end. If you don't like walking into a room full of strangers, arriving early can help. Check in with the event organiser, introduce yourself, and find out what will be happening. Name badges are often available and sometimes illegible. I carry one of my own in case. You may like to do that. Whatever you do, wear one. They are there to help a networking event run smoothly. Are you one of the people who forgets names? Aren't we all? And please, wear the badge where it can be seen, not on your belt or your cleavage. And while we're on the subject of names, if the event has a list of attendees, take a moment on arrival to study the list. See if you recognise anyone and start your networking there. Are there any potential customers you want to meet? Ask the event organisers to introduce you. That's their job. Remember that everyone is there to meet people, and some are more nervous than others. Most people want to help and are happy to engage in some level of conversation, even if it's only to discuss the food or the weather. Again, you probably aren't the only one who's nervous. Dutch courage very rarely works. Be careful how much you drink. And if you aren't a juggler, it can be hard to manage a drink, a plate of food, an attendee list, business cards, and a bag. Don't arrive at an event hungry. Eating isn't your priority, networking is. Have your business cards handy rather than at the bottom of your bag, which you've left in the cloakroom. I'm often asked how to start a conversation at a networking event. People like to talk about themselves, so start by asking them a question. Here are some ideas. What do you do? How long have you been a member? How's business? Any simple 5-word question will do. And read the news so you can make relevant comments about current affairs. Or you might be at a stunning venue and comment on that, which leads into a business conversation. Generally, you don't ask someone to marry you on a first date. The same is true at networking. Work your way into a conversation. Show an interest in their business. It's easiest to listen. Simply ask them a question. Keep it light. In a room full of 80 people, it's important not to get stuck in deep conversations with 1 or 2 people and miss out on the rest of the potential contacts. If you want a longer conversation, put a date in the diary, there and then. I have to add in the question that often comes up. How do I finish a conversation with someone who is dreadfully boring? Yes, that's a tricky one. At a convenient point, smile, and say something along the lines of, "We shouldn't stand here all day, let me introduce you to so-and-so." Or, "Will you excuse me, my coach has told me I need to keep circulating at these events." They may be really nervous, which is why they're talking a lot. Help them to move on. Let's think about business cards for a moment. It can be like a swapping frenzy when you meet people. You'll be using cards to keep the connection going, so don't lose them. Some people like to write notes on them, perhaps what to follow up on or how you can remember them next time. Show a genuine interest. Swap cards after you've spoken to each other. When I receive business cards, I ask if they're happy to go on my mailing list. No one has ever said no yet. It's polite, and it's now a legal requirement. Continue working your way around the room, asking for help in finding people as you need it. Of course, you can help others to network as well. As you leave, do thank the organisers, and if you're interested in visiting again, find out how it works. Don't be pressurised into buying memberships. Always try before you buy. After an event, following up is critical, and you must make time to do this professionally and quickly, preferably within 24 hours of an event. Let me introduce you to my friend Kensington. It's a card scanner, and I recommend you buy a good quality one today. My assistant scans all my cards for me, adds them to my contact list, and when I've noted it on there, adds them to my mailing list. She does that every 2 weeks. You'll need to do what works for you. In the meantime, after an event, I email the contacts I've made with any relevant follow-up, such as putting a date in the diary for a one-to-one or sending them information I've promised. If they've agreed to accept your mailings, thank them. Either way, be sure to say it was a pleasure to meet them. There must be thousands of business cards lying in the bottom of briefcases that never see the light of day again. Make sure yours isn't one of those. An alternative, or in addition to emailing, is to find your recently met contacts on LinkedIn or whatever professional online networking you use. Face-to-face networking is very important and becomes all the more powerful when you add social networks to the mix. So there you have it. 4 steps to make your networking even more effective. Choose events that are relevant. Prepare yourself. Attend. And follow up wisely. All in all, networking is work. Dive in. Be clever about it and build your business. If you really want to sharpen your skills, I offer a one-to-one power hour in networking. Working with me is easy. We can meet face-to-face or on the phone. On my website, you'll find 2 other helpful webinars on time management and handling difficult conversations. My networking book can also be found on my website. You can buy these and the Power Hour online at cliftonconsulting.com. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. If you'd like a copy of the slides, please do email me at daphne@cliftonconsulting.com. I really hope you found this useful and have some great success with your networking.